Back when I was in college, I took a ton of classes dealing with advertising, social media, PR, marketing, all that good stuff. But over the past few months, as I graduated and I really started growing my Instagram accounts and my YouTube account, I've started to wonder, why wasn't I taught any of the skills that I'm actually using in real life? Like, this is the real future. This is real life. Growing social media accounts, learning how to market online, that's real stuff. And as I kind of reflected, I remembered one thing from one class that was actually incredibly important and holds true today that I've been doing with my social media growth that I didn't even realize I was doing. Even though this is something that I was doing subconsciously, I would argue that this is one of the most important things that you need to know, certainly if you've been watching my series, and definitely if you're trying to grow an Instagram account. Because this is what separates world-class brands, companies, pages from kind of run-of-the-mill pages or brands that get left by the wayside and get forgotten. So if you really want to take your page to that high level where you're able to make money, you're able to do things at a big level, this is going to be one of the most important pieces of information that you can know. And the concept or the idea that I'm talking about is transactional versus relational marketing. And to make things simple, transactional marketing is where you're going to be thinking about what you can get from your customer or your follower right now. Relational marketing is going to be where you're thinking about how do we build a relationship so that we can have a give and take for a long period of time. Now, transactional marketing is a little bit of a more old school approach to marketing, and relational is definitely what the world is moving towards. And just to make it clear, transactional marketing is again the kind of marketing where you're looking at each customer, looking at each follower, looking at each person, kind of like a dollar sign or like a number. You're basically focused on getting them to do what you want as fast as possible and with the least amount of resistance. And this old style of marketing is highly reliant upon volume because you're kind of burning people. You're just trying to get them into the ecosystem, make a quick buck off them, get a quick follow. You're not trying to keep them around and build those long-term relationships. And this is why relational marketing is going to be more impactful in the long term. From the beginning, you're looking at things with a more long-term approach where you're thinking about how do I build relationships with my followers and develop unique experiences so that they really know me at some level versus this is just a page that they're following that they forget about. And again, with relational marketing, you're trying to build real relationships and build a real community behind your brand, which is going to be much more superior, especially where you're on Instagram trying to grow a page, because that's going to keep people in your ecosystem liking, commenting, telling their friends about your post, sharing it with friends. You want to build that relationship so that they feel like they're a part of something more than just a generic page. And one way that I like to think about it is, how much have I invested into my audience? Have I invested in enough that they're going to be invested in me? Have I given them a reason to be loyal to me? Have I really built those relationships to where they feel like they're my friend versus just another number on my account? At the end of the day, if you're trying to do the more relational approach, you need people to feel like they know you, like they know who you are, like they're not just another number for you to run up a bag on Instagram. So obviously relational marketing is the better option of the two, and it's going to help you to have a much stronger, more engaged audience over time. But I'd be a huge hypocrite if I acted like I haven't been checking my metrics and my numbers every day throughout this series. If I'm being perfectly honest, on every single one of my pages, I check my stats every day. And a lot of the stuff that I've given you in the series, a lot of the growth hacks and a lot of the quick growth formulas are very transactional in nature, but there is a reason for that. And the analogy that I like to give is of the tortoise and the hare. Now, everybody knows when they race, the hare is so much faster than the tortoise. In the first half of the race, he kicks the tortoise's butt. But in that second half of the race, the tortoise has that work ethic and he keeps up a pace that he can keep through the entire race. So at the end of the race, obviously the tortoise beats the hare. Now, this is the exact same thing with relational and transactional marketing. Relational marketing is like the tortoise. It's really slow, and so in the first part of that race, you're going to get your butt kicked by the transactional marketers. And if you're doing transactional marketing, you're going to kick their butt for the first half, but in the long term on the race, the relational marketers are going to win because they have those real relationships that are going to take them further. So the reason that I've shown you a lot of transactional, quick little growth hacks in this series is because Instagram is highly saturated at this point. Anytime you're posting on Instagram or you're making a page, you're literally competing with billions of other creators. And like we talked about last episode, social proof is a real thing. People are more likely to follow pages that are already established than new pages that don't have anything going on yet. And so my whole reason for wanting to teach you some of these transactional methods up front is so that we can sort of eventually transition into that relational lane once we get you a base following. Think about it like this. Sure, the hare wins the first half of the race, but the tortoise wins the last half. So instead of just going all the way into one camp or the other, why don't we use the best of both camps? Why don't we find out how to be the hare in the first half of the race and take off as fast as possible? And then on that second stretch, that second half of the race, switch over and do the tortoise method and do more of a relational approach where we end up winning in the long term too. My whole goal in this series is to give you the hacks to get you off the ground, get you to about that 10K, and then to start switching over into a relational mode where we can grow you in the long term into a world-class brand and make you an Instagram that's gonna make you money and make a difference in your life. And if you're still not fully convinced on the idea of relational marketing versus transactional, think about it like this. These guys are gonna kick your butt in the long term if you keep doing only growth hacks for the entirety of your Instagram account. You're gonna have to transition or you're gonna be left behind, and all this work that you put in to get to 10,000 is gonna be irrelevant. So then the question becomes, how do we actually do relational marketing right now on Instagram? Now, relational marketing is not something that has a one-size-fits-all solution to it. And that's because you're building real relationships. Think about your relationship with your mom versus your friends at school. Pretty different, right? It's the same thing with relational marketing. You need to think about, who are my target demographics on my page or on my pages? And how do I need to communicate differently or provide different value to make those demographics or those groups of people happy? So some basic ways that you can actually start being a little bit more relational in your Instagram pages are replying to DMs or actively DMing people. It's really good to get a back and forth going. I mean, that's one of the simplest ways to be close with somebody or to build a relationship, is just to communicate. And with that said, you can also do that in the comments section, but that's obviously a little bit more of a public form, so that may not have as much impact as reaching out and DMing your followers might. That's one of those things where if somebody's really active on your page, it's not that hard to reach out and DM them. You can also think about, how should I change my content around to provide the value that these guys may want or need? In other words, how can I stop making just mass or generic content, and how can I start producing once in a while some very specific content that serves a smaller group of people but serves them in a deeper way? Because when you serve people in a deeper way or in a more real way that a lot of people aren't doing, you stand out. And when you stand out, that relationship becomes more memorable. Some other things you can do are obviously polls on your story or ask me anything type things on your story. That's just to, again, get that kind of dialogue or that back and forth going, ingratiate yourself into people's lives and into their memory. You can obviously do giveaways if you have a little bit of money you're playing around with. Or another thing that you can do is actually take your audience off platform. Creating kind of secondary communities for your overarching community is a great way to build deeper relationships. That's why you see a lot of YouTubers or Twitch streamers kind of bring some of their audience over to Discord or Discord servers, is so that they can start to spend more time in a different form with them and with some of the more hardcore followers, so that they build that real sense of community or that real group of supporters. And the last piece of advice that I can give you on relational marketing is actually going to be a shift in your mindset. Instead of that old school kind of mindset of like, how do I get bigger numbers? How do I make more money? How do I get more followers? When you start shifting your thinking away from self and just putting stats on the board, and you start slowly shifting that towards being a little bit selfless, start thinking about, how can I deliver value to people? How can I make people's lives better? How can I put the things that they want to see in front of them? That little shift in thinking is going to take you towards a more relational approach to your social media that's going to build more meaningful relationships with your followers. Now, even though I definitely am promoting the relational style of marketing, and I think that that's what you should move towards, definitely don't do that until you're getting closer to 5 figures in your followers. Once you start getting around 10,000 followers, that's when you really want to make that switch in a big way. But early on, I definitely recommend you're a little bit transactional in when you're posting and what you're posting. And what I mean by that is you should be posting a ton early on. And I've talked about this before, I've alluded to it a little bit, but I just want to be super clear. If you guys are still early on in this journey and you're not near 9 or 10K yet, you should be posting 5-6 times a day, and you should be posting 3 or 4 reels if you can. I want to show you some of my data here since I've been posting about 3 or 4 reels a day for a week straight. I started hitting about 1 million accounts a day. And that's real numbers, that's not fake. That really happened on my profile. And I'm somebody that didn't know anything about Instagram going into this. So please guys, go ahead and abuse the methods that I've given you, these short-term methods, abuse them. Use them to your advantage until you're getting closer to that 10,000 follower mark, and then you're gonna wanna make that transition. And then here's the very last thing, and I've forgotten to do this in multiple episodes now, But early on in the series, I said, hey, if you guys want a shout out, maybe you guys want to help each other grow, and we can kind of use my audience to follow each other as we're starting and to boost each other's engagement. Well, here are some of the names of the awesome people that have reached out, commented. I've talked with a lot of these guys on Instagram too. These are some of the names. Unfortunately, YouTube kind of blocked off a lot of the names. If you comment your IG name on YouTube the wrong way, YouTube kind of blocks it. It blocks your comment, deletes it. So thank you guys again for watching, man. It's been awesome doing this series. The next time you see me, I'll have 10,000 followers, and it'll be episode 10 of the series. So maybe we'll do a little series after this series, something a little bigger and better. But thank you to all you guys. Here's your shout out. God bless you guys, and I appreciate it. Thank you.